A very good morning, dear students. Welcome to e-learning classes of Sacred Hearts of the subject economics. Dear students, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the construction of questionnaire and schedules and their qualities. We have discussed about the different qualities of a good questionnaire, such as there must be limited number of questions, the language must be simple and lucid, there must be proper order of the question, and no undesirable question, no non controversial question, and calculations must be avoided, and pre testing pilot survey must be done for the more reliability of the data. Instructions must be given for the filling up of the questionnaire, and the questions related to the cross verification must be there. Thereafter, we have discussed the different type of questions that are included in the questionnaire, such as simple alternative questions, answer of which can be given yes or no, right or wrong. Thereafter, MCQs, multiple choice questions. Thereafter, we have discussed about the specific information question, for example, your name, class, section, roll number, etc. And thereafter, open questions in which the suggestions and views have been asked. Thereafter, we have discussed about the third and last method of collection of primary data, that is the telephonic interview, in which the investigator used to contact the respondent through the telephonic conversation and used to collect the information. There were different merits such as originality of data, accuracy of data, reliability of data, and data seems to be very cheaper source. And thereafter, demerits, personal bias, and limited access. Dear students, today we are going to wind up the chapter with the last topic, that is a collection of secondary data. Half of the chapter was about primary data. Now we are going to discuss about the collection of secondary data. So dear students, if we talk about the collection of secondary data, then there are two sources of collection of secondary data. The very first one is the published sources and the second one is the unpublished sources. If we talk about the published sources, so these are the sources which are somewhere published, for example magazine, for example journal, for example newspaper, etc. But if we talk about the unpublished sources, so these are the data that have been collected by the different institutions or investigators, but these are not published anywhere, but they are kept with the investigator, institution, or by the particular body. So very firstly, we will start about the published sources. There are different options for the published sources. The very first is the government publication. If we talk about the government publications, then there are different ministries of the central and state government which used to publish the variety of statistics information as the routine activity, and these data are fairly reliable, more reliable in comparison to any other published sources, because these are directly published by the government. For example, Statistical Abstract of India, Annual Survey of Industries, and RBI Bulletin. Thereafter, second source is semi-government publications. There are some semi-government bodies such as municipalities and metropolitan councils. They also used to collect and publish the data regarding the education, health, birth, and death of the people residing in their territory. Thereafter, the third one, that is the reports of committees and commissions. In the different tasks in the different time period, government used to appoint the different committees and commissions, and when these committees and commissions used to work throughout their study, they used to collect the lot of data, and later on, along with the report, they used to publish all the data. For example, there are many commissions such as Finance Commission, Monopolies Commission, and Niti Aayog. They used to collect these type of data and the statistical information. Thereafter, the fourth source is the publication of trade associations. There are different trade associations, big trade associations, through their statistical and research divisions, collect and publish data on the various aspects of trading activity. If we talk about the example, then Sugar Mill Association publishes information regarding the sugar mills in India. So different trade associations used to collect the data regularly and used to publish it also. Thereafter, the next one, that is the publications of research institutions. Various universities are there, various research institutions are there, so they used to keep on doing the research work, they keep on doing the thesis work. So in this research and thesis work, they used to collect the information and used to publish it at the end of the time. In India, for example, Indian Statistical Institute and National Council of Applied Economic Research publish a variety of statistical data on the regular basis. The next one is the journal and papers. Many papers such as the Economic Times, that is one of the best newspaper in the context of the economic study, economic condition study, as well as the magazines such as Commerce, Facts for You, also supply a large variety of statistical information. Apart from this, publication of the research scholars can be there, and international publication through the UNO, United Nations Organization, IMF, World Bank, ILO, etc. can be the sources for the published sources of data. And unpublished we have discussed earlier. Now the next topic, that is the precautions in the use of secondary data. Secondary data already exists, so when we are using the data of someone else, so there are some precautions to be kept. What are these? The very first is the availability of collecting organization. Initially, the ability of the collecting organization must be cross-checked. If the organization is able, capable and competent, then only the data must be utilized. The second one is the objective and scope. One should also cross-check the objective and scope of the collecting organization. Data should be used only if objective and scope of the study undertaken earlier, if both match. That means the earlier objective and scope and the present objective and scope, if they will match, then only the data must be utilized. The next one is the method of collection. The method of collection of the data by the original investigator should also be noted. We must cross check that according to the subject matter, which type of or which method have been utilized for the collection of data. The method adopted must match the nature of investigation, and whatever the method have been used must be as per the nature of the investigation, then only it will be utilized. The next one is the time and conditions of collection. Before using the data, it is also to be cross-checked what was the time and condition, what were the different conditions while the collection of data. For example, whatever the data you have collected during the war time cannot be generalized in the condition of peace time. The next one is the definition of units. Units such as kilometers, meters, tons, liters, centimeters, meters. So what have been told? What have been told, beta? One should also make sure that units of measurement used in initial collection of data must remain same as in the present study. So the unit must remain same, and if the unit is not same, then initially the digits or the fact and figures must be converted or modified as per the use. And the last one, that is the accuracy. Accuracy of the data should also be checked. If the available data do not conform to required degree of accuracy, then these should be discarded. If the data doesn't seems to be accurate, then there is no use to utilize these type of data, so it must be discarded. So these are the precautions in the use of secondary data. Now the next topic is two important sources of secondary data. सेकेंडरी डेटा के इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्सेज की बात कर रहा है. द वेरी फर्स्ट इज द सेंसस ऑफ इंडिया एंड द सेकेंड वन इज द रिपोर्ट्स and publications of NSSO, that is the National Sample Survey Office. The very first is the Census of India. Dear students, if we talk about the Census of India, then it is a decennial publication of the government. That means decennial publication, that means 10-year publication. After every 10 years, the Census of India used to be conducted by the government. See further, it is published by the Registrar General and Census Commissioner India. Who used to publish? Registrar General and Census Commissioner used to publish it. And it is very comprehensive source of secondary data, one of the most reliable source of secondary data and most detailed form of secondary data. It relates to population size and various aspects of the demographic changes, is one of the most important core center. See, broadly it includes the statistical information on the following parameters. And what are the different parameters? The very first, size, growth rate and distribution of population in India. Thereafter, population projection in India, that means the projection of the population. Thereafter, density of population, that means it in a square kilometer how many people are living in our country. Thereafter, sex composition of population, that is the male and female ratio, and the state of literacy, that means how many people are literate, how many people are educated, and how many are illiterate, and so on. Thereafter, the second source is there, reports and publications of NSSO, that is the National Sample Survey Office. If we talk about NSSO, then it is a government organization which run under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So it used to work under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. This organization conducts regular sample surveys to collect the basic statistical information relating to some important aspect related to rural and urban areas. And what are the different parameters of NSSO? That is, the first is land and livestock holdings, that means the holding of land, and livestock, that means animals, cows, buffaloes, goat and horses, and so on. Thereafter, second, housing condition and migration. What are the different housing condition, miserable and proper or improper, and the migration from rural to urban area and the reason behind that. Employment and unemployment status of the country. Thereafter, consumer expenditure in India, and the last one, that is the sources of household incomes in India. That means how the household people are earning their livelihood. So this is all about today's lecture, as well as about this chapter as well. Dear students, today what we have discussed? Today we have discussed about the collection of secondary data. The very first source was published and the second one was unpublished. If we talk about published sources, then government publication, semi-government publications, reports of committees and commission, publications of trade association, etc. were there. And thereafter we have discussed about the precautions in the use of secondary data. And the last but not the least, we have discussed about the census of India and the reports and publications of National Sample Survey Office. God bless you all. Lots of love.